Okay, before I show you the build, I need to give you some context. So, I've heard a lot of complaints about Blood Mage and Sanguimancy. No one likes to have to manage two different resources, and so many people have seen so many mana stacking and int stacking builds that they're tired of seeing it. Also, stacking mana and int is really expensive, so trying to tell somebody to build it at this point, they gotta be really rich, they can't really afford it, or they're playing a subpar version of it. And thematically, a lot of people would enjoy having this Blood Mage, like vampire type of spellcaster that primarily uses life as a resource, and no one's really been able to figure it out really well from what I can see. So I decided to take my crack at it and create a spellcaster that uses the elements, that primarily uses just life as a resource, and this is my attempt at doing so. So without further ado, here's the build. +1 corrupted, +1 irradiated, +1 on the map itself for an 82 value here. So just so you know what you're going to be looking at ahead of time, we're looking to play Blood Mage with Blood Magic, so we completely eliminated the mana as a resource. The reason why you would play Blood Mage as an Ascendancy is because you want to take a base spell that has a lower crit chance value to raise it up to 15%. You're going to be stacking life, so you're going to be getting higher crit damage values, and you want to make sure that your life as a resource is able to replenish itself. Where like a vampire, this Blood Mage type of thing, the more damage you do, you refill your life. And now thematically, we have something that is cohesive, that makes sense, and that is fantastically fun. So, all right, so now let's go over the gear. Before I show you all the different pieces and its modifier values, just note that you can put this entire thing together in somewhere around 10 div, depending on your shopping experience, the time of day you're on, and how often you're on and you're checking prices and stuff like that. I will go over some of the costs that I can kind of remember the prices. You can get an idea of what it costs, okay? So this one here, I'm pretty sure it cost me less than a div. We're just looking for plus spell skills, any type of damaging stats in the form of as extra or spell damage. Don't really care about like cold damage, fire damage, electrical or lightning damage, because we're doing a mixture of all three. You want high crit chance primarily, and if you can get cast speed on here, cool. If not, whatever. On your offhand, you're going to be using a scepter. The Sacred Flame is what you're looking to get. You can get smaller as extra value, somewhere in like the 50 range for exalts. So this is a really cheap item here to acquire. The gloves, you can get smaller values on this as well. Obviously I have a corruption here, but just ignore that and get a smaller critical hit chance value. You can pick this up for exalts. Really the main reason why we're using this is for the critical hit chance and the leech for critical hits and instant. That's like the primary reason. So as long as you get a reasonably high value, above 45 or something like that, you're fine. You don't need to look for anything crazy. This cost me, the corruption cost me like 3 div, but I'm pretty sure you're fine using a lower value. The boots is just a 30 movement speed base. I don't feel like buying a 35 because the value of it goes up considerably. I picked this up for like a couple div, and we're basically just looking to stack life. You'll see kind of the same thing around the other pieces in just a moment. We're using the Ingenuity belt. At this point in the league, Ingenuity belt is no longer like crazy expensive, so you can pick up like a 70-ish value for just a few div. And we're going to be looking to scale life primarily, resistances, cast speed, and even strength, because the more strength we have, the more life you get on the rings. So you'll see that on both ring slot. I picked these up for like 90 exalts. Like, it's not expensive at all. The amulet is very similar. We're looking to get life and more defensive stats, so maximum energy shield, because we're stacking energy shield as a primary health or life resource. +3 to skills, because we're using a lot of different skills. And then any type of damaging stats, critical hit chance, cast speed, and critical damage bonus. If you get one that has any sort of spirit on it, that's good. You want at least 10, because that will allow you to wear the cannibalism. And if you don't have cannibalism, then you're going to want +2% life regen per monster killed on your jewels. I'm pretty sure the amulet was like, I don't know, 100, 200 exalts. So these are all exalts. This is exalts here. These are exalts for lower values. Obviously, the higher, the more correct out you want to go. And then the boots here, a couple div here. This was, I think, like 4 div or something like that. Chest pieces that they don't have spirit on it dramatically decrease its value. Everybody's building spirit stuff, and if they're not using a body armor with energy, they're using the Warrior Invictus, so these aren't as expensive anymore. And then our headpiece here is just an ES base with some life, resistances, critical hit chance. Obviously, you want to play around with these values. I haven't optimized everything yet, so if you look here, my lightning is just through the roof, and my cold needs a little bit of work and chaos, so I still have some optimizing to do. But with just the small amount of investment that I've made so far, we're able to clear these tier 18 maps pretty well. And now let me go ahead and show you what we're doing with the gems. Now remember, because we're Blood Mage and we're going to be leeching back all of our health as we're doing damage, we want to abuse the fact that we essentially have infinite mana resource. So we want to, the way I can think of best abusing that is with cast on critical mechanics. So we're using cast on crit with Comet, and we're basically just want to spam Comets. If you've ever played a Comet build, everyone will tell you that the bottleneck on Comet builds is the fact that you run out of mana instantly. So if you don't have the flask, the melting maelstrom to instantly fill up your mana, you're just dead. Like, there's no mana, you're just crying, right? So in this build, you don't have that problem. Once you start the chain and you can keep it going with whatever energy spell you're using to generate your energy from, the comets will just infinitely just rain down. So you have no problem keeping it up. I'm thinking about adding another cast on critical, but for now I have an extra one here, and all we're doing is adding Eye of Winter to increase our further increase our critical hit chance to 100% on everything. And then we're adding lightning exposure and cold exposure, because those are the 2 damage sources that's bringing the most amount of damage via Comet and our energy generating spell, which is Spark. Again, the reason why I chose to use these spells is because we want to keep it still a mage. So we want to use all the elements here. That was kind of like my inspiration. I wanted to be a mage, but I wanted to be a blood mage, right? So we're trying to still use the elements. So we're using Flame Wall to empower our Spark, and all this gets cast automatically, right? So the Flame Wall gets cast automatically, all the exposure, the increased critical, so you never have to cast all these things to buff yourself. As you're running the map, all you're doing is running around pressing Spark, everything else is casting. The nice thing about it, as you saw in the videos, is that you can clear everything on the map pretty easily. All of the clips that I showed you were a lot higher, like they were juiced up maps, or they're purposely, I try to find things that were a little bit harder. But if you're just slamming tier 15 maps with just rarity and quant on it, this is going to be way easier. I mean, you're going to press the button once and the entire screen melts and you're just zooming. So obviously the less juiced the map is, the way, and when I say that, I mean like when you're avoiding 70-80% elemental res, plus monsters have 70% increased life and 200% ailment threshold. I mean, I don't know why you would run a map like that. It just doesn't make any sense. But I'm just saying, like, if you avoid ridiculously terrible maps for you, you're going to crush basically all the maps, all the bosses, no problem. Map bosses specifically. I'm not talking about the pinnacle bosses. So I think we've achieved a build that does that well. Now our spell generator is going to be Spark, and we're going to couple that with acceleration, Pierce, Lightning Mastery, Considered Casting, Rising Tempest. This one right here, because we're using all 3 elements, you're going to get 36% more elemental damage. So this damage right here goes up by double. It'll be like at 42. I say double because it's also not factoring in all of the increased damage when we crit on the passive tree. So this will be somewhere around like 42%, or I'm sorry, 42,000 damage or higher. And obviously you can push it higher with more investment. We haven't min-maxed the build yet. So we're using Spark as our meta generating spell. We're using Cast on Critical Comments to do all the big damage everywhere. And we're using the Cast on Critical with the Flame Wall to boost the Spark. Hypothermia, just really for bosses. There's really no other reason to use it. It's just so that our comets can hit harder. Grim Feast, so that we're running around with 10k plus shield. And all of the values for stun threshold and freeze threshold are increased. So we just want to make sure we're not getting stunned and frozen. That's like the primary reason why we would die. It's like when we literally can't play the game, then we'll get hit by something and die. So we get those values up higher. Blink on our offhand, just to swap around and blink everywhere to revert the map faster. And then Soul Offering, it's just there. Honestly, like when I swap and I use Soul Offering and to kill a boss, he'll melt way faster, obviously, but I almost never use it just on like a map boss, or if I'm doing like a trial, or if I'm doing like Psychomas or something like that. But other than that, you don't really need it. But yeah, that's all of the spell gems and the mechanics around that, what we're looking to do there. And now let me take you through the passive tree. So on our Ascendancy, we are looking to go Blood Mage, obviously. That's the whole point of you watching this video. So we're taking Vitality, Siphon, Gore Spike, and Son of the Flesh. The reasons why we covered earlier, so I won't really go over that. We're taking Blood Magic again. And everything else on the tree, I just kind of want to give you the reasoning or the rationale behind taking them, so it's a lot easier for you to make your own adjustments. I primarily focus on getting as much crit hit chance and crit damage bonus as I could. So we find that on the tree, we just pick it up everywhere. It picked up here, here, and over here, because it works well with our Ascendancy, right? We're trying to crit, and we're trying to make those crits do more damage, so that makes sense. After I got a good critical hit chance, I wanted to abuse the fact that I have like an infinite mana pool. So we're taking all of the meta skill passive nodes, stuff that increases your comet damage, stuff that makes it so you can trigger more comets, get your more energy, all that kind of stuff in this area and this area. We also get it all over our jewels. If you're wondering what we got on the jewels, all of them is just damaging stats. It's just crit damage, spell damage, and anything that says meta generating stuff. And let me show you this one right here: meta generating stuff and triggered spells. So it's just damage, like elemental damage. Anything that does damage, just throw it on there. Get as much meta skills and triggered spells as you can. That'll make your comets hit harder for single target damage. And then after you got all like your damage worked out, or like you like where you're at, then you can go ahead and get all the defensive nodes. So we're looking to get a lot of ES. So we take these nodes over here for ES. We take these nodes over here and over here. This one's really nice melding because we're not using maximum mana. So it's no problem that we're reducing it. So this is really nice. And then we also want to get stun threshold. That's the other reason why we would die. So we take the stun threshold here, we take it over here, and then we take freeze threshold over here. And that makes it so that I haven't got stunned in a map yet. I haven't got frozen in a map. So we have comfortable enough damage where we're comfortable running the map and just blowing through everything. We have enough defensives in the form of shield and stun threshold and freeze threshold, so we're not dying to weird stuns where you can't actually play the game. And it starts feeling really good. In terms of like big boy jewels, I haven't really got anything on here that makes the build even crazy. This is pretty much like my version 1.0. We haven't, I haven't gone through and made a ton of optimizations, but just with what I got going on here, I'm able to crush all the content that I enjoy doing. One thing I will say is I went ahead and did a Zesh, and I'm not comfortable where we're at with the damage yet. So if you primarily like to do pinnacle bosses, like you only farm Zesh or you only farm the King of the Mist, this is probably not the build that you're going to want to go with. There's tons of builds out there that one-shot bosses, so if that's all you're doing, you're queuing up a map, killing a boss, queuing up a map, killing the boss. That's like all you want to do, then this is probably not the map. But if you're like, I want to just lay back, rip through all the maps, kill some map bosses, do some Sekimas or something, like some trials, this is definitely a build that'll crush all that content really comfortably, and you're really safe. While doing so, you're really tanky. You don't really have to worry about stupid stuns and freezes, and it's really cheap to put together in comparison to what's out there now. So, give it a go and let me know what you think. If you have any questions on how to make the build work, leave them down in the comments below. If you have any suggestions on how we can make the build better, or if you have some requests of builds that you'd like me to make, go ahead and also leave those down in the comments below. If you want to catch me live, I take questions live. If you want to hang out with me and play while I'm in the game, you can catch me live on Twitch at twitch.tv/CJLive. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe for future content. I will be making an update to this to show you, a better version of it with all the different optimizations that I make. But for now, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.